Hello, welcome to Recovery Demystified, a show where we explore our relationship to substances from a radical, non-religious, and empowering lens. Our sobriety is not a purity contract. It is an invitation to become curious about ourselves and find our own unique paths to growth and healing. If you've been questioning the role of alcohol or drugs in your life and haven't found the resources that you need, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, it's your friend Early. Welcome back to Recovery Demystified. I'm so stoked to have y'all here today. Super proud of everyone for surviving another week. It's kind of rough out there, so good job, everyone. Today I want to talk about something that is not important to me at all. I'm sorry, which is holidays. I understand that this is like a very intense time of year for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, and that I am like super weird about my perspective and activities surrounding things that are called holidays. And I think this is for a lot of reasons, a few of which are that I'm a punk and an anarchist, so I naturally am just like resistant to things that society says that I like have to be a part of. And for one, I'm like, Christmas is consumerist centered holiday or a Christian holiday. I mean, stolen from pagan traditions, but either way, I'm like, I don't care about buying stuff and I don't care about Christian traditions. So what do I want to have to do with Christmas? Nothing. And my favorite thing to do on holidays, and this is me being super wacky, and like I honestly love doing this, is I love to have a normal day. I love to wake up in the morning, do my morning routine, do whatever I want all day, and just have a fucking completely normal day and not get wrapped up in all of the hullabaloo that society prescribes for us on these days. And it makes me feel really good to do that. And that's me. So yeah, I think part of it is like being a punk and just like rejecting things that society has said that I'm like required to be involved in when I'm actually not interested in them. And then another part of it is also just like the absolute pragmatism of being neurodivergent and autism spectrum, which I'm just like, oh, I get a day off of work. Like, I want to do whatever I enjoy. And also, yeah, it's just the same overlap of this is not what I want to be involved in, so I'm just not going to be. And I have like no qualms with that whatsoever. And I guess another layering factor to it is that my family doesn't force gatherings on these days. We did it when we were kids, you know, traditions or whatever. But now we've all been adults for a really long time. And it's like the folks that are still close to each other where I'm from get together because there's a niece and nephew type situation. So I think it's like they're still doing stuff for the kids off yonder in the homeland. But no one's like, my mom's not like, why don't you come home for Thanksgiving, darling? Like, there's none of that going on. And no one feels any sort of way that we're not getting together. It's like there's a love between our family and we appreciate the time that we spend together when it happens. And like low-key, I think that basically everyone in my family is neurodivergent, so maybe that's something that has to do with it, where we're all just like focused on doing our own things and are resistant to being told that we need to celebrate in certain ways. Yeah, and just like a deep pragmatism to we all live in different parts of the country and we're not just gonna drop what we're doing and fly to be together because the broader culture says that that's what we're supposed to do. So I don't care about holidays. I care about my friends' birthdays and that's about it. But I do recognize that the holidays for almost everyone besides me brings up like this large variety of emotions, and that not everyone has a family that they get along with really well, and that this cultural requirement, though I have rejected it, is like very deeply rooted in most people's psyches. So I think like a lot of people think like, oh, I have to get together with my family and it will be difficult. The crazy thing about families is like we don't get to choose who our like blood relatives are. Everyone just gets born No one decided to do that. We all just like get born, and then we look around and we just like hope our caregivers are able to meet our needs, and sometimes they can't, and sometimes we grow up in weird, chaotic environments. There's intergenerational trauma, there's poverty, there's whatever chaotic elements are going on. And here you are living in a house together, and no one gets to choose who they're related to. So that a lot of times it's like we're sort of forced to be together in these fraught relationships that no one signed up for, which is a really strange part of being human on this earth. And a lot of people around the holidays buy into this cultural requirement that we have to be together with our families. What's really interesting to me is that there is also this like facade of merriment or whatever. Like holidays are the days that we're like, we have to be happy. Oh, it is like the joy of the season. Merry fucking Christmas or whatever. And that's something that bothers me about holidays, is that like it's a prescription for a certain emotion. And that's just not how happiness and joy and celebration really work. You can't decide that one day every year we're going to all participate in the exact same traditions and we're all going to have fucking fun. God damn it. You know, like that is something that bothers me about it too. It's like we can all create our own traditions and our own like appropriate celebrations based on where we are with our loved ones and ourselves, like in that moment. And what I've observed as a person who doesn't care about holidays with people that do is there's basically like this illusion or facade of merriment and joy and celebration. But when I hear people talking about the holidays, it's actually an experience of deep stress and revisited trauma and being forced into situations that people don't really want to be a part of. I hear a lot of people being really stressed about having to buy presents for people or having to see their family. And it really just makes me question the whole situation. Is this really fun for y'all? Why are we doing this? It seems like everyone's like pretty low-key stressed out about holidays, and that it isn't this fun celebratory thing that it's projected to be. And I feel like it's all like super deeply related to recovery, to relapse, to stress and trauma because of these like difficult relationships with family, and stress that has to do with things like money, travel, work, and things like that. And anytime we get pushed outside of our window of tolerance, we're at a greater risk for relapsing or going back out or field research or whatever you want to call it, using substances again when we've decided that we don't want to. And so it's really important this time of year when there's this added stress, or often for people an added element of loneliness. Like some people maybe don't have families, or they're estranged from their families, or seeing other people gather around this time of year brings up a feeling in them like, oh, who am I going to gather with? I'm going to be alone on Christmas. That deep discomfort that comes with loneliness and lack of community can also be a huge trigger for people. Plus the days are so short, and there's seasonal depression, and there's like not a lot of sunlight, and it's cold, and there is just a lot going on this time of year for a lot of people. And I think it's important to dig in to ourselves and really figure out what we need and why we're doing this. For folks that feel obligated to buy presents or go do things with their family when it's maybe not the most fulfilling situation for them, or perhaps it's like super triggering or like dangerous or something of that nature, sit with yourself and say, why? Why am I choosing to interact with my family on this day? Why am I choosing to buy all these presents on a credit card when I can't afford it? And sit with that. Give yourself an appropriate amount of time to sit with the truth of your own situation and write it down on a piece of paper and look at it and be like, is this reason good enough for me? An exercise I love to do in situations like this comes from the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, which if you haven't read it, it is fucking outstanding. I think it should be required reading for the entire human race. And it teaches people how to communicate with each each other with being empathetic and compassionate and allowing for like this freedom of communication, deep understanding between people. It's like a very fucking peaceful way to speak to yourself and to speak to people around you. So if you haven't checked out this book, it's like the number one best book I would recommend to all people. But there's an exercise in this book where you write down things that you have to do. You're like, I have to blank. And it could be like, I have to see my family on Christmas. I have to buy 20 people a fucking present. I have to blah, blah, blah. Write down everything you have to do, whatever is going on in your life, your personal situation. Just write, I have to, and then finish that sentence. And then rewrite every single one of those sentences and reframe it as I choose to because there's actually not anything in life that we actually have to do. There are repercussions that are outside of our control. There are consequences that are outside of our control based on the decisions that we make. But the truth is that you do not have to do anything. Everything you do every day is a choice, and it's up to you, and the repercussions and the consequences are what is outside of your control. So you take something, say like, I have to go home and see my family on Christmas. Instead, you write, I choose to go home to see my family on Christmas because. And then this helps you figure out where your values are, and it helps you figure out if there are things that you're doing that are not aligned with your values, and then you can choose to stop doing that, right? So for instance, say, I choose to go home to see my family on Christmas because I feel pressured by my parents to do so. Is that a good enough reason for you? I choose to go home to see my family on Christmas because I genuinely love them despite our differences. Is that a good enough reason for you? And you just reframe every single one of these things you think you have to do. Admit that you are choosing to do everything, and write why you choose to do it. And in that moment, you see your truth, you see why you are choosing to do things, and then you can move forward in a way that is more aligned with yourself and choose to do things that truly work for you in your life. And obviously, like, okay, you can get argumentative with me about the concept of choice and being forced into things. And we live in a world where there is a multitude of different kinds of systemic oppression. It's fucking late stage global capitalism. There is widespread racism, classism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia. All of these monstrous things exist, and they do bottleneck our ability to make choices that are aligned with our morals. But in the end, you do have a choice about everything you're doing despite outside circumstances, and whatever the outside circumstances create as their own consequences to your choices, you can use that as information and base your choices on that strategically to work as best as you can despite all of the challenges, because you do still have control. You are in charge of your own choices. And I mean, it's a scary, sad place out there in the world at times, but I think it's an important exercise, especially this time of year when people feel like, oh, I have to buy presents for people. You literally don't. You do not have to do that. You choose to buy presents for people because I don't know why you do it, but you do. So it's just like a good exercise to be able to like write down like, what is my truth in this situation, and do I want to continue to choose to do this in the future? And it's been like super helpful for me personally when I feel like I'm locked into doing something, to be like, oh no, actually I'm choosing to do this and I literally don't have to anymore. So I invite everyone who's feeling really conflicted about holiday things to just try this out for size and see how it works for you. I also want to invite people to ask themselves clearly, like, where am I in my recovery and what kind of support do I need for myself this time of year? For some folks, it can just be being honest with your family and saying, I'm not drinking, please don't offer me anything to drink. And then just get that out of the way, clear boundary. And that can work for some people. For other people, being in that stressful situation is going to be too overwhelming at all. And I just want to give everyone a permission slip. You don't have to go to any social gatherings this time of year. You don't have to go to any family gatherings this time of year. It is okay to stay home and focus on your peace and focus on your own healing. And sometimes I get a little bit of pushback from ideas like this because people are like, oh, isn't it selfish just to take care of myself? Isn't it selfish just to like work from a perspective of prioritizing my own needs? And I would say to that, absolutely not. A lot of times people in their addictions are like people pleasers. We go out of our way to try to make the people around us. We try to go out of our way to shift the view of people's perspective towards us. And in early recovery especially, I think it is so important to turn your energy towards yourself, prioritize your own healing in every single possible way, because in the end, we're all connected to each other through these like strings of just social connection through the entire world. And when you are nurturing yourself and giving yourself the love and care that you need to survive and thrive in this world, then when you're ready to show up for other people, you can show up with your cup completely full. You can show up as your best self. And if you show up as your best self because you've been nurturing yourself, that healing energy is going to radiate out into your community. And if instead you decide that it is selfish to take care of yourself and you show up to people please when you're not nurtured and you're not healthy and you're not rested, then you're showing up as a stressed out, half full cup or empty cup version of yourself. And that energy is also going to radiate out into the community. So I think truly the least selfish thing we can do is focus on our own healing, especially if we've never done that before. And sometimes that is going to involve saying no to something that people expect you to do. And it is okay to say no. It is okay to stay home. It is okay to do a decadent self-care routine on holidays instead of going out into stressful environments. And it's up to you to know what your needs are. Something that I invite people to try to figure out what is within their window of tolerance when thinking about like going to the company Christmas party or going to a family gathering or going to anything in early recovery, is to ask, does this make me a little uncomfortable, or does this put me into fight or flight mode? And if you're not aware, fight or flight mode is when the sympathetic part of your nervous system is activated, and this can show up differently in different people's bodies, but it is typically going to be like an increased heart rate. Maybe you feel flushed and hot. Maybe you start sweating. Maybe your respiratory rate increases. Maybe you sort of dissociate and get a little spacey. But when we are slightly uncomfortable, this might just be like a dull anxiety, a slight worry. When we're slightly uncomfortable and we go into these situations and we survive anyway, we prove to ourselves that we are strong, and we show our brain that it can be uncomfortable and survive. So I think it's important, if you have a mild anxiety or are slightly uncomfortable, to go through with the situations as they are, because your brain will get stronger and stronger and learn over time that I can survive being uncomfortable. However, if we're identifying that sympathetic nervous response in our body and seeing signs of fight or flight within us, within our thought patterns, and mostly within the sensations of our body, that is a situation that is going to cause further trauma with us, and it is not going to lead to growth or healing. It's going to make things worse. So if you're recognizing symptoms of fight or flight, it's time to scale it back and say, this is too much for me, because the longer we force ourselves through that, it's going to become so emotionally activating that those thoughts of using are going to return, because those thoughts of using are what has soothed us in the past. And when we're super activated, when we're in an emotional state that we can't tolerate, the thoughts of using are going to become very, very strong, and they're going to become very, very convincing. And it's really hard to be in what our body is telling us is a life or death situation and not try to escape it somehow. And the way we know how to escape best is by using substances. So I definitely invite people, before you go into these situations, like, visualize yourself in that situation and ask yourself, like, what is my level of activation right now? Am I comfortable? Am I sort of uncomfortable? Or am I panicking? And if you're panicking in your visualization, that's not going to be a safe situation for you to walk into. But if you're a little bit uncomfortable, like, it's up to you, go ahead and do it, or stay home if you need more rest at that time. So these are the things that I recommend, that I invite people to try, especially in early recovery. When we are thinking about how am I going to survive the holiday season, I recommend people ask themselves whether they're going to be in the comfort zone, the discomfort zone, or the panic zone. I invite people to write down the things you think you have to do and reframe it about why you choose to do the things you choose to do. I give everyone a permission slip to stay home, be selfish, and take care of yourself, because your healed energy is going to radiate out into your community. And lastly, I want to address the folks that are lonely during this time, because loneliness is a huge trigger oftentimes for using substances, because to be honest, that loneliness can put us into that same sort of, not fight or flight, but it puts us into a situation where our body views being lonely as a life threat. Because historically, as humans, when we were evolving over, however the fuck long it took humans to evolve, we were a social species, always. And when we lived in tribes, being rejected from the tribe put us out on our own, which basically meant certain death. Like, we relied on the protection of strength in numbers to survive. So even though we're not living in the same sort of like tribal lifestyle that humans historically lived in for thousands of years, we still have that programming in our brain that says, if I'm alone, death is imminent. And having this sort of like life threat in our minds can absolutely be a massive trigger for the addicted voice to pop up, and for thoughts of using to happen, and for thoughts of using to be very convincing. So if you're lonely, there's a couple different options. One thing is, like, look for some of those community meals that happen, because those are there for you. And it can be really scary to walk into a room of strangers, but it can also lead to like a lot of growth and a lot of belonging. Like, everyone that's going to a meal like that is going to be someone in a similar situation to you, and a person experiencing loneliness. And it can be just super relatable to be in a group of folks like that, and to be like, yo, we're all going through this thing, but we all left our house and decided to come here and gather together. And that's super meaningful. I feel like every city across the fucking continent has these type of community meals, because a lot of folks recognize that there is like a deep loneliness oftentimes with holidays. So I definitely invite people to try out one of those community meals. Or the other option is reframe your loneliness to be a time to go inward and explore solitude and explore learning how to be comfortable by yourself, because having alone time is also really important, and learning how to be comfortable by yourself is a really important skill. Being alone allows us space to emotionally regulate. It allows us to explore our hobbies and our desires for creativity. It allows us time to just chill and focus on our own needs and relax and heal. So if you're battling with loneliness, it's important to ask yourself, what do I need right now? And try to meet those needs for yourself. Like, it is okay to be alone. So whatever is going on for you, try to make a choice. Try to exercise that autonomy muscle and get up and make a choice that is right for you in that situation. And it might be going out and going to one of those community meals. It might be trying to practice meeting your own needs and enjoying solitude. And it might be recognizing and accepting the fact that we are lonely, taking that moment to identify this emotion and decide that I'm going to tolerate it instead of suppress it. Our ability to recognize, learn about, and tolerate our own entire wide range of human emotions is an absolutely essential skill to learn in recovery, because a lot of times with substances, we are using them to suppress uncomfortable emotions, and loneliness is a real fucking tough one. But if we can practice this muscle of recognizing, naming our emotions, and learning how to sit with them and accept them as the utterly beautiful fucking complexity of the range of human emotions, instead of deadening everything with substances that we don't like, this is going to make for a fucking strong skill in our recovery. Yeah, if you're lonely during this time of year, I just want to say that sucks, and I'm sorry, and that you're not the only person that's lonely this time of year, and I hope that you're able to find what you need during this time, and whether or not your body is giving you signals that death is imminent because you're lonely, that is not true. You will survive, and using substances or drinking, we know that's not going to make it better. But yeah, that's some of my thoughts on surviving the holidays, a few different tips and tricks of ways that you can mentally work through the hurdles that occur this time of year, and just like an open-ended permission slip to do what is right for you and not make decisions based on what other people are going to think about you. Your survival is enough, your survival is important, and your needs are important. So fill up your own cup, make choices that work for you. Ask yourself, what would someone who loves themselves do? What would I do if I was showing love to myself? And make those choices. Yeah, the days are going to get longer, sun's going to come out. If you're having a hard day today, I see you, I love you, and you're going to make it through this. May you be happy and free. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Recovery Demystified. If you like what you heard, share it with a friend or rate and review us so we can reach a larger audience. Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our beautiful theme music is by Logan Bragg, and our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. We are entirely supported by your generous donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. You can find a link to donate in the description. May you be happy and free, dear listener.